No. Father! No! Are there any other Chinese people around here? Sailors? I'll look for some. Thank you very much. Do you know any places where sailors like to hang out around here? So you know about Lan Di. Just who the hell is he? After all that, still didn't get Lan Di.
So, my name is Corey Marshall. I am known as the voice actor who does Ryo Hazuki in the Shenmue series.
Do you know where I can find any sailors around here?
Do you know where any sailors like to hang out?
I think if you find a floating sword in a cave, it might change your mind about things, you know what I mean? Like,
if you love video games today, it's because of games like Shenmue.
Lan Di, fight me! I will avenge my father!
Good. Done. That's good.
Looks like we had a few audio issues there, a little bit of a repeat, but unfortunately that happens. But hello everybody, welcome to this special stream. Let me know if audio issues continue. I worked hard on that video, I'll try to play it again without audio issues. But here we go, Personal Magnus here, and we're welcoming on this very special last Shenmue day before Shenmue 3 is released to the public. We have the voice of Ryo Hazuki, none other than Corey Marshall. Welcome.
Hey man, how's it going? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, good to see you too. How are things?
Excellent. Well, you know, despite the audio issues, I think a lot of people probably heard that audio from Shenmue 3 before. Oh, it feels so good to say that, you know what I mean? Just after all those years, I just want to punch Lan Di a couple times in the face. And, you know, could you blame me? Really, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, like, I can't believe that we're just a few days away of actually not only being able to play a game that we've dreamt up for so long, but also to experience the next part of the story and to have you back, of course, as that voice. So I'm honestly looking forward to it. I can't wait. So let's get started. Look, first I wanted to know, like, what's going on with you lately? You know, how are things?
Oh, things are good. Yeah, you know, I've been doing a lot of promotional work for Shenmue 3 recently, doing some conventions and E3 and all that stuff, and hanging out with awesome people like yourself, doing podcasts and all that kind of stuff. So really, mainly, I've been doing a lot of promotion for Shenmue 3 recently. And just loving it, man. I'm like you. Like, I cannot wait for Shenmue 3 to come out. I gotta get my hands on it myself, and I need to I need to play. So yeah, I'm excited, just like you are.
Yeah, and I'm like, you have no idea. I play the demo like almost every day, just excited to get my hands on it and just experience that story. So I've seen a lot of trailers, and recently one of the trailers, at least the trailer that I showed in the video. I have to honestly tell you that final scene where you're confronting Lan Di and you want to take out revenge on him. That line and the delivery of that line and how you presented that was very passionate. It almost brought tears to my eyes. My question to you is, how did you feel, especially with these latest recording sessions, between that experience when you traveled to Japan at such a young age to now, and recording everything now, and was there any difference in your voice delivery and performance?
Yeah, you know, we Bill Black and I, the voice director for Shenmue 3, yeah, we talked about that, right? So, you know, the character that I chose for Hazuki is a very you know, I've always described him as a very stoic character, right? Like maybe, you know, he's on an epic journey and he's completely focused on all of that, right?
Yeah.
So I almost feel like in a way he's lost a big part of himself, right? Like he's lost he's lost his life in a way. He's lost his school life, maybe maybe his romantic interest that he was supposed to be involved with. You know what I mean? Back in game 1, all the way, possibly Nozomi, right? And then he lost his family, right? He's left. Well, his father is gone, and he's left his other family behind to go on this quest. So he's really lost everything about himself. So I just chose this very, straightforward, to the point, nothing else matters, that kind of thing type character. And so Bill Black and I kind of talked about it, and like, well, through this journey, and I've kind of spoken this out loud a couple of times, and we've been kind of thinking about him almost regaining some of his humanity. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I kind of felt like Hazuki's character was, he tried to be as emotionless as possible, but then sometimes he gets turned up to 11. You know what I mean? Like whenever his friends or his family, or maybe he finds somebody extremely important on his quest or something like that, like he really does get amped up to 11. And that's where all of his, like, I don't know, seething anger, stuff that he's been kind of repressing for a while, kind of comes out. But we're kind of thinking, like, when he sees other characters, should he open up a little bit more? Should he be a little bit more emotional? And yeah, we kind of went back and forth a little bit. So we're kind of thinking, like, when he meets familiar characters, when he sees characters that he knows again, or when he talks to characters, for example, that he might know from previous games or something like that, should he be a little bit more familiar with them, right? Should he be a little bit more caring? Should he be a little bit more friendly to them? Those kinds of things that we talked about, right?
Yeah.
And his. And I think probably people could tell from that, particularly like you mentioned, that last line from that trailer, like it's really his anger is becoming a deep passion of his. You know what I mean? It's really driving, as we know, really driving everything in his life, right? And I think people will start to see in part 3 that he's got, there's more to this journey than meets the eye, right? There is a great story and destiny involved, something that he's beginning to understand. So yeah, things are starting to become a little bit more passionate for him.
See, it's interesting that you mentioned like how much his character has matured, and your take on your performance, at least when it comes to Ryo as a character. But I also want to talk about how you have changed when it comes to the announcement of Shenmue 3 and where you stand today. How much has pretty much the past 4 years affected you as a person, now that the franchise has been reignited and all the fans have come together to relaunch everything?
Yeah. I've always been a little taken aback by the fandom, and how, I just spoke about passion, and I think that translates to the fans a lot, you know what I mean? And since Shenmue 3 has come out, even right off the bat at E3 all those years ago when they announced it, and I saw the reaction videos coming in, and I was just like, I know there are some people out there who love Shenmue, and they tell me about it all the time, and I'm really grateful for all that. But it really, I think when a video captures, okay, so when you're, in fact, a lot of these people were live streaming or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
They just forgot about the world for a moment. Right? When that music came on and everybody realized that Shenmue 3 was going to happen, everybody forgot that the world existed for a while, and people freaked out, and some people just lost all composure, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So right off the bat, when I saw those things again, I'm just like, wow, you know, Yu Suzuki has really created something here that affects people on a deep, profound, just on a different level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then after all of that, people start to contact me again, and they tell me their stories, and it really, you know, the only thing I can say is that I am extremely humbled by that, and I think how fortunate I am to be a part of something that affects people in such a way. You know what I mean? So, man, it's really the passion and the love of the fans that really drive me to really, I just really want to produce something good for you guys, because you know I'm a lover of games myself, and I'm a fan of Shenmue. But man, when I see you guys and how much it means to you, like, that's all I want to do. You know what I mean? That's all I want to do. You know, people have asked me before, like, oh yeah, will you come back and do Shenmue, whatever, if it's 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, and I say, I don't care what's going on in my life, I don't care where I'm living, I don't care if somehow they cast me in the next Avengers movie, and I'm like, sorry guys, I have to take a break for a while because I must do Shenmue, and this is just how it's going to be. And I'm serious about that too. Like I kind of feel like Shenmue is the thing that's just going to happen in my life no matter what, and I'm going to make sure that that I deliver for the fans, because we wouldn't be here without the fans anyway. You know what I mean? So that really profoundly shapes me as a person, and like I said, I can't believe that I'm a part of a project that affects people on that level.
I mean, like,
so yeah, no matter what, I spoke to my wife, and I'm like, I'm doing Shenmue no matter what. You know what I mean?
To be honest, like, my reaction to that especially that day, that legendary day, one of the things that kind of took me back, besides like crying a tear and be like, oh my gosh, was the voice that they used. It wasn't you. And
yeah,
I took a step back, like, okay, it's close, but it's not Corey Marshall. So
right.
When I heard the news that you were coming back to the franchise, I was just elated. So, you know, I hope you know, and I'm sure the fans would agree with me, that getting you back and being this loyal means everything to us. So from that standpoint, thank you. Thank you so much for once again taking on that role. It really does. It really does. I mean, it's been part of my childhood, my growing up, because even throughout the last 20 years, I continue to go back to Shenmue and Shenmue 2. So, again, thank you so much for that. And that means a lot to hear all of that. So,
yeah. Well, you know, like I said, man, Shenmue 3 would not be happening without all the fans and guys like you. Seriously. So, you know, you're thanking me, but really, everybody involved on the project, me, Yu Suzuki, everybody, we're all thanking you guys. So,
which is awesome. There's one thing, one curious question I did have that I pulled up while looking information about you up, and it's, you're big on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're big on not only martial arts but martial arts philosophy, and pretty much what trainers would kind of give to their students as teaching in their teachings, not just the training but also the wisdom that they want to pass on. So am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, you know, I don't, in my opinion, you can't separate the two. And where we are today as a society, and how commercial a lot, like mixed martial arts is and all that kind of stuff, we've really stepped out of that old school philosophy to go along with martial arts, because martial arts is, you know, martial arts isn't just physical, it's mental as well.
Right.
And people might go back and forth of how much, what the percentage is and all that kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, I would say, I would say maybe 70 to 80% mental. Because we're able to build up our bodies, we're able to lift weights, we're able to practice every day. We hone our skills, but when it comes down to the warrior philosophy and the being a true martial artist, most of it comes up here. When you're dealing with your opponent, not only are we talking about the chess game of being able to figure out your opponent's moves, being able to overcome and adapt to that, but also the ability to overcome your own body's limitations. Maybe you're tired, maybe you're weak, maybe you have a bum knee, maybe whatever that case is, you have to be able to overcome all that. Right. And then just when you think that you can't go any further, maybe you're just completely wiped out, destroyed, tired, whatever the case may be, you have to be able to keep going. Because nowadays we have the ability to, tap out in the ring or something like that, you know what I mean? Back in the day, we really didn't have that ability. And actually, the Marines have something very similar to that too, and they call it the 40% rule, where you get to a point where you think that you can't go on anymore, and they say, okay, now that you think you can't go on any further, you're actually only at 40%.
Oh my god.
Because you got 60% more, ready to get up and go.
Right.
So it's really sort of similar to that philosophy, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's when my daughter asked me from time to time to go out and we'd hang out in the park after school or something like that, and I'd teach her different stances, different kicks and punches and stuff like that, and we'd strike the trees. Actually, it's very similar to Shenmue.
Boom.
You know what I mean? Going out to the park and practicing your moves and that kind of stuff. And I'd tell her, I'm like, okay, now that we've done this, let's go home and we'll learn a little something. We'll look up on the internet, and we'll look up even famous generals in World War II and stuff like that. And of course, who doesn't know about the philosophies of Bruce Lee and stuff like that? So, and I'd say, hey, let's pick out a lesson today, and maybe we might pick up a quote from probably one of the most famous ones that probably everybody viewing this will remember is Bruce Lee's, be water, my friend, right? Yeah. Water can be a cup, it can be a vase, it can be whatever. He talks about how it can crash or it can flow. And he does a whole speech about this. And for some reason, if anybody hasn't heard it, I recommend that they look it up.
I've seen that too, yeah.
Okay, great. And I'll tell Katana and be like, okay, well, what does that mean? And I remember specifically we were talking about that, and she goes, well, it sounds like to me that when something happens that you need to adapt to that, that you need to react to that, and you need to, I forgot exactly what she was saying, but she had it, like, she nailed it right on the head, and I thought, wow. And she's only 10, right? And I thought, wow, that's really great that she was able to get that concept, that she was able to say, hey, it seems like when you have a problem, that you need to be able to adapt to that, right? He talks about, when my enemy expands, I contract. When my enemy contracts, I expand, right? So you need to be able to meet those forces back and forth, and find the perfect fit, right? Just like water becomes the teacup. Right. You need to find that perfect fit to be able to overcome any situation. And I remember we were talking about that, and I thought, wow, that's great that she's able to to learn that right away, and that's something that I can talk to her about everything. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's school. It doesn't matter if it's just maybe later on she'll be working with a difficult boss or something like that. You know, like all of these things can be translated into real life situations everywhere. So.
Yeah, I mean, you could basically apply at least that concept to almost any situation in life, and really go forward with it. And adaptability, especially with everything in life, is very important. So that that in itself, I pretty much live almost every day like that. I saw a video where he was given that interview, Bruce Lee, and he talked about that, and it connected with me as well. So I was pretty touched. When it comes to like specific martial arts trainings, is there any particular part in like Shenmue, especially with Iwao's training of Ryo, that also connected with you when playing the game, or any quotes that you remember that stuck out to you?
You know what I think about was great about Shenmue is that I just mentioned mixed martial arts, right? MMA, right?
Yeah.
And I say, well, Hazuki was doing that way back in the 80s, you know, like it became famous in the 90s, but Hazuki went on his journey and was doing mixed martial arts before anybody else was, right?
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee talked about that too, right? Like he found some things that worked, but then he realized like the system he was using didn't work all the time for everything, right? So even Bruce Lee, you know, back in the 70s and stuff like that, said, hey, there is no system. He ended up creating his own, but I'm sure if he were alive today, he would see things that work, and he would only adapt those things that worked, because that's who he was already. And I think about that with Hazuki's character, and I think, oh, that's great. His you could see that he does his stand-up martial art. He does his like judo throws. He's got some jujitsu in there, and I think, wow, that's great. But he already has a great martial arts vocabulary. But as he moves on throughout the story, he picks up more moves through different masters, right? And then we'll see it in the new game as well. Whenever he faces an opponent that he is unable to defeat, he has to go and learn something else. So it's like, oh, well, if you remember in the end of Shenmue 2, before the famous chopper scene, right? He's facing a huge guy that is this charging bull, so he's like, whoa, I need to figure out how I can get around this. I can't fight him face forward, head on. I'll get defeated every time, so he has to figure out how to get around his opponent. And that's it's interesting. I really love that about Shenmue and about Hazuki's character, that and it's interesting that we've mentioned the martial arts philosophy, and I talked about Bruce Lee, because Hazuki's the same way, right? He comes in, he's attacking the way that he knows. It doesn't work every time. He gets defeated sometimes. So he's like, okay, well, what do I need to do now? I need to learn this. I need to learn that. He goes and finds a new way of overcoming his opponent. And so he, again, him developing as a character, he had no choice but to drive forward. At the very beginning, he was just out for revenge. He really has to get to Land D. He really just, nothing else matters. I'm going to go headlong into this problem and try and defeat it the only way I know how. Well, it turns out that he couldn't do it, right? No matter how strong he was, no matter how much he hated Land D, he couldn't just go out and defeat him right then and there. So he has to take his journey. He has to learn. He has to grow. He has to learn new skills. He has to learn patience. He has to learn even just simple things like footwork and stuff like that, because all those things are going to help him along in his journey.
Yeah.
So, that kind of philosophy, I hope that people can know that it's not just about martial arts, like you just said, with the philosophy of become water, my friend, is really sort of the same thing that we're talking about with Hazuki, right?
Yes.
Like, it's not all martial arts. It's again, maybe we're talking about a boss at work. Okay, well, what kind of boss is he? Is he the kind of person that you put your head down, hard work, that kind of thing? Does he respect that? Does he want you to flatter him, to stroke his ego? Does he want you to whatever the case may be? You know what I mean? It's like you approach a problem one direction. If it doesn't work that way, you got to try something else, right? It's like jujitsu in a way. You know, you're trying for an arm bar. Oh, well, it doesn't work because he has his arm over here or whatever. Okay, well, we need to work around and see if we can get him into a choke with his gi or something like that. Oh, look, his chin is down. We can't do that, so we have to go in a different direction. Maybe we'll thrust our hips up and try to get him over our head or whatever the case may be. You know, you don't just keep trying to get him into an arm bar or a kimura or whatever the case may be, because if it's just not working, it's not working, right? You can't just keep going in that same direction,
Right.
because eventually he's going to figure out, your weakness, and he's gonna defeat you. So, I love the fact that Hazuki's going on this journey that is, similar to this martial arts philosophy that we've been kind of going on this theme so far.
Yeah, and speaking of that too, like, it's weird because I played the Shenmue 3 backer demo, and I've already played Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2, and going into at least the backer demo, you have to look for a man with a scar on his face. Spoiler, by the way, if you haven't played the backer demo. So you find the guy with the scar on his face, and if you haven't done the training, he pretty much can demolish you pretty easily. Unless you played it a few times and can figure it out. And then it's like, go train. And the concept of, wait, you have to do more training after everything that Hazuki's been through. He's got more training to do. And I found that interesting, that it's still moving on with that training. Like, you may think that you've progressed this far, but you're only just beginning. It's almost like the concept of, when you're tired, you're only 40% of the way there, which even in that game, I could see where that related. And then the new training methods, such as, for example, the tree stance or the 1-inch punch. The 1-inch punch in particular was like, that's a Bruce Lee thing. Like, we're going to that level too, and I love that. And I loved how you can progress up to the point where you're really doing an authentic 1-inch punch after several hours of training and conceptually a day for Hazuki, which was pretty cool. Speaking to that, you've played pretty much a couple of demo versions of this game before its release, correct?
Yeah, well, I played the same demo you did, right? I played that with Yu Suzuki himself, which was awesome. It was an honor, and he was in the room with me, and we were discussing the game and all that kind of stuff as we were going along. And so yeah, I played that, and when we were doing the voice recording here in LA, Yu Suzuki, of course, came. Checked out our studio and everything, stayed for several days, talked about character and all that kind of stuff, talked to me, talked to Peter Black. We had a very in-depth discussion about everything, where the game's going, where 3 is going, where, hopes and plans and futures and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, character, and I got a chance to play, I guess technically I can't say yet, which is a little bit frustrating, but we're very close. But let me just say there was another location that I was playing in, and I got to meet several characters, and I got to see, I got to go through this location and see other areas as well, which was great, which is a real big treat. and it was great because I was playing on his laptop, and he had plugged in a game controller, and man, it felt so good. I tell people this, I tell people, like, for all the fans of Shenmue, you're going to remember, you know what I mean? You're going to remember, it's going to be great, but for all of the new fans as well, it's a new modern game, modern fighting and graphics and everything else, and the light and the sound is just fantastic. So I think all the new fans will be satisfied as well. So yeah, I had an opportunity to play a couple different things.
So speaking of the fighting engine, that in itself changed severely from the virtual fighter engine that was a big part of the Shenmue 1 and 2 to this new engine that Ryo Hazuki developed. Personally, what do you think of at least the fighting engine changes that they made?
Yeah, good question. So, I really enjoyed it when I played the demo. Actually, I didn't do any fighting when I was on the the game that was being built at the time that was that was living on Yu Suzuki's laptop. So I didn't do any fighting then. I guess I was kind of wandering around and seeing a lot. Well, I did the fighting during the demo, and actually I really enjoyed that. And I kind of had to go back, and actually I'm playing Shenmue over again with my daughter. And I kind of remember, I was like, oh yeah, the fighting was really different back then, and it is kind of a stark contrast. And if anybody, I think anybody who plays 1 and 2 and then goes directly to 3 will notice a big difference.
Right.
And yeah, I actually really enjoyed it, and I found it to be, what I'm trying to say, maybe more intuitive. I remember having to practice certain moves over and over and over again.
Right.
When I was in 1 and 2, and man, I would, it's kind of like when you're playing Street Fighter or something like that. You got to get those combos down and stuff like that. And if you really just kind of mess up at all, if you got the joystick in the wrong direction, you know what I mean. You're not going to pull off whatever you're trying, the 15-hit combo that you're trying to do. And then you just get wiped out. But yeah, I kind of felt like when I was going through it, I felt, and maybe I don't know if it's just my imagination, because I only had a chance to play it a couple of times. But I remember going through the fights and thinking like, oh yeah, I kind of feel like it's almost, I don't know, I don't want to say easier, but I think maybe more intuitive might be the word.
Yeah.
I kind of, like, when I wanted to move a certain way, it moved there. You know what I mean? I kind of felt like, as good as the old engine was, yes, I kind of felt you were a little bit, you were a little bit limited by the fighting of the time. Like if you wanted to move out of the way, you double tap out of the way or whatever. But it still felt a little, I don't know, a little clunky, a little slow if you wanted to move in. I remember all these double taps and moves and stuff like that, and of course you get used to it when you're fighting 1 and 2, but I felt like, yeah, foot movement was definitely more natural and felt good when I was moving around, felt great. And then I felt when I was doing the strikes, I could see my opponent's strikes coming in, and I remember being able to counter and strike faster. Anyway, I think the whole thing just felt better for me in general, and I'm excited about it. I hope people agree with me that if you remember 1 and 2, I think people are gonna like 3 and feel how good it is.
To be honest, I heard a lot of stories about mixed reactions to the fighting engine of the demo, right? And then when I had a chance to play it myself, I wasn't aware if it was refined and polished since the early reviewers were able to play the early versions of it. But when I played it, I found that it was very, like you said, intuitive, and not only that, it made sense to the modern engine. It made sense to modern gameplay as well, but it also made sense that it felt real. You felt the impact of each of the hits, each of the blows. When you do elbow assault, it really knocked the character down, and that felt really good. So I thought that the engine itself was I almost prefer it to the old engines, except for the fact that there are no throws. What do you think of that? Now, a lot of the throws that you were able to do in the previous versions, you can't do in this third game. So what do you think of that?
I don't see. The thing is that when I played it, I was kind of wondering myself, like, where is it going? You know what I mean? How are we going to have throws in the future? I was probably thinking the same thing you were. So if they don't do throws, to be honest with you, I would prefer to have that because I kind of feel like that's kind of like the legacy of Hazuki and his family and his martial arts that he learned and all that kind of stuff. Like, I would love to continue that.
Right.
And again, I don't know if we're going to have that in the finished game because in the end, the demo is just a demo.
Right.
And I don't know if that was finished combat or not. But yeah, personally, if you don't, if there's not, it's just personally speaking, if there's not judo and jujitsu involved, then I would be disappointed by that. But in the end, it is an action game with a lot of stand-up fight, and that's looks. As far as an action-oriented game is concerned, I mean, we're going to see a lot of stand-up combat, and if that's what we get, then that's what we get. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's a lot more in his toolbox already, and like you said, he's already learning more and all that. So there's going to be plenty of moves to try and master. And it's interesting that you mentioned the elbow assault because I remember that in particular.
Yeah.
I remember scooting back and waiting for one of his moves. Like he would come in with a kick or a punch or something like that. And I remember, running in and doing that elbow assault. And like you said, you felt that impact, man. Like when you knocked him in the face, you could feel the weight of that elbow. Right? You could see it in the character and be like, ooh. That rocked his boat, man. You could see the body movement, and you could just, you were like, yeah, you nailed him good that time. It's interesting that you mentioned that because that's definitely, I remember that in particular.
Yeah.
But again, I want to see as much in Hazuki's toolbox as possible without it being just absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean? We had a bunch of moves in 1 and 2, and it was hard to master them all, to be honest with you. And sometimes you just kind of had to pick your favorite moves and just practice those, and get your huge, like, your huge just brawling strikes or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
When you're at distance and all that kind of stuff, and when you're close, do your throws or whatever. Or you got multiple opponents around you, so you throw one guy into the other. So yeah, it's kind of like, I remember I had like a go-to list of like 10 moves or something like that. Yeah. And I kind of felt like all the other moves I did, it's like I did it just to master them. And as the game would go on, of course, I would memorize other moves just to throw them out. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, well, this battle, I'm gonna, really try to utilize this move. But and it was cool because you had so many options, and it really you could really customize those moves to your preferences,
Yeah.
And the kind of fighter that you really wanted to be. So that's cool. I mean, there were so many things, but we'll see as far as the list of moves that we have. It's going to be really hard by Shenmue 10 or whatever we have. If we have a list of 10,000 moves, it's going to be kind of crazy, right?
You're gonna have to break out a tip book this thick just to learn them all.
As you're fighting, you're like, hold on a second. what it says again. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I found great about the previous games, and I hear it's making a return in Shenmue 3 is move scrolls, and learning moves and being able to purchase move scrolls and then learn those moves and help them out. It really deepened the game's pretty much replay value, trying to get all the scrolls or learn all the moves from every aspect of the game, and Shenmue 3, it looks like they're going to continue that, just because I saw a couple of pre-order items that you get some like move scrolls, which is pretty cool. I'm assuming it's going to be just as deep, if not more deep, when it comes to all the different moves that you can learn. So yeah. I think that's awesome. But I also wanted to touch upon, Shenmue combat was important, but a lot of Shenmue was about the experience, about the lore, about conversating with people. And in the first two games, you recorded a lot of dialogue. I mean, till this day, there were certain scenes that I was seeing for the very first time. When you compare the dialogue from the first two games till now, a couple of questions. First, how much dialogue did you record this time versus the other two games? And second, how has the feeling of that dialogue changed when it comes to the interaction with characters? Is it more in-depth conversations, or is it pretty simple between characters? Can you share any of that with us?
Yeah, well, as we all know, in Shenmue 1, he was in a familiar place. You know what I mean? Like, he knew people there. Basically, he knew everybody in town. So, yeah, the dialogue there definitely changed into, and it's probably safe to assume that, yeah, it's going to be similar as well. He's in a foreign place. There are strangers around, so the dialogue is definitely a little bit different there.
Yeah.
The script is, it's easy for me to say that, yeah, it's similar. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He needs to go places. He needs to find things. So when he's talking to random people about directions and all that kind of stuff, I think it's going to be similar to what people remember from 1 and 2. But as far as see, this is where we get a little tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about story and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
We'll see. How can I say this?
Give us what you got. Come on.
Yeah. Okay, I'm thinking. I'm trying to say what I think I can reveal.
Okay.
Well, shit, man. I don't know. You got me here.
I got you. You're supposed to be
so
able
hard,
to adapt to the situation.
You got me.
There
Okay,
you go.
well, let me just say this. People know that Shenhua is in the game.
Right.
That's obvious. And he is with her in this game, and we really start to see a lot of discovery about what's going on. You know what I mean? We have a lot of suddenly unanswered questions, right? I mean, they alluded to a lot of this in Shenmue 2, and of course, Shenmue 2 at the end, we really start to see some pretty crazy things, right?
Right.
So, the story really starts to, I'm gonna say, it starts to go in a different direction, and as far as dialogue is concerned, he's got somebody that he can talk to, confide in. And there's definitely some discovery about where the story is going, and he has somebody now that is really a big part of that. I it's no secret that Shenhua in 1 and 2, she is this mysterious character that, of course, he now knows and interacts with now on a daily basis. So it's pretty, I I think fans can probably guess that she's, going to be a big part of the story, and it's, her and Hazuki going through the story together and finding out some things. What else can I say?
Everything. That is itself sounds great. Thank you for giving that little taste. We're all like eyes open, like give us more.
Yeah, sure. Sure. I'm trying to give you something, you know what I mean, that I think that probably fans could probably, guess if they wanted to put 2 and 2 together, right? But yeah, I think it's great that he does have somebody that he can talk to now, and it's good to have somebody, I don't know, almost like a companion to go along on the journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He always has. Like, if you think about it, in 1 and 2, there are always these characters, he has, whether it's the little girl with the cat, or whether it's Nozomi, or whether it's Joy, or whether it's Ren, or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, he has these characters that he runs into all the time, and that they kind of become friends and that kind of thing, but they're not... And again, fans could probably guess this, but it's just like they're not really the same as the Shenhua character, right? Shenhua is something different, definitely connected to him in a different way, and that's all I can say.
All right. I won't try to push you too hard on that. I'm gonna switch things up. I'm gonna go into the dialogue, but really recording the dialogue. How did it feel to have your daughter Katana go into the recording studio and record lines for the game?
What can I say, man? It's the best. My daughter is an actress. She has done TV and commercials and all that kind of stuff, and she is kind of following in my footsteps a little bit. And as you mentioned, so much so that she has made an appearance in Shenmue 3. Yeah, man. It's come full circle. I mean, I was just, barely just a very, very, very young man when I first started Shenmue, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm older. I have a family of my own, and to have my daughter join me with Shenmue 3, really just bringing the family into something that has been a passion project of mine for so long, man, really just means everything. And she loves it. You know what I mean? She loves acting. She loves being in front of the camera. She loves the process. She likes creating characters. She loves writing stories. She loves drawing. And whenever she draws, like, she always draws characters with, different faces and hair and clothing, and she puts a little story next to them, you know what I mean, about who they are, where they came from, and all that kind of stuff. So she just loves all of that. She loves the whole process. So for her to be in Shenmue 3, yeah, man, it just means everything. It's so great that that I started this journey at one point in my life, and to bring something that is the most important thing to me, of course, is my family and my daughter. To have that in Shenmue really it's hard to describe. It's really just because Shenmue means so much to me. It's an honor to have my family involved with that as well. So
will we be able to recognize what role she plays in the game, or we'll have to find it or wait till the credits roll to see who she was?
Yeah, well, when Team U, I think it's ISNet that they posted some of the video between me. Well, I guess I should say Hazuki's character and the character that my daughter plays.
Yeah.
So if people go on there, they could see her character, and there is a little scene, and I can say this because it's already been out there.
Okay.
That some of the kids are playing hide and seek, with Hazuki's character, right? So he's in this small village, and some of the kids are playing hide and seek, and they convince him to play a game. So my daughter is one of the kids that's playing hide and seek, which is great because it's like it kind of reminds me of playing with my daughter when we would run around playing hide and seek in the house or outside or something like that. I think, well, it's great that we're actually playing a game that I would seriously play with my daughter, and so yeah, and there's some story attached to that as well. So if people want to go on to the website, it's the Japanese website connected to Shenmue 3 and everything, Ryo Hazuki. Definitely go check that out, and you'll see some video of me and my daughter. I just recently posted a very short video on Twitter with my daughter in the recording booth. So if you guys want to check out Corey Marshall VO on Twitter, you could probably find that video. I posted it not too long ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a short video there of me and my daughter, and she's like, "Oh darn, you found me!" So that's that scene where Hazuki is looking for some of the kids, and he ends up finding her.
Awesome. And congratulations on being able to incorporate your family into this franchise. That sounds like a huge honor.
It really is. It's gigantic, and I couldn't be happier. And I want to thank everybody involved, Ryo Hazuki and Bill Black, and everybody who just allowed that to happen. It's really fantastic.
Now, I do have a question about the voice actors, other voice actors that you might have worked with. Was there anyone else besides you who was able to return that we can know about, or some
that you can know about?
Yes.
I can't say.
Okay. I have to ask.
Yeah, we. The fact that I can't say should tell you something.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Yeah. Okay.
All you fans out there who, whenever it's kind of, you notice that too, right? Like whenever it's a big movie or something like that, and they're like, "So hey, where is Spider-Man going to be doing this?" And he's like, "I can't say." Then that's
All right.
kind of one of those things, right? Or just kind of lets your mind go nuts, and people have asked for return of certain characters.
Right.
People have asked for the return of certain actors, and you guys are just going to have to wait a few more days to see if that happens. But it should be interesting.
So, one voice actor that we do know is Brianna Knickerbocker, who played the voice of Shenmue. What was it like recording with her? Did you share a booth, or did you record separately? How did that work?
We did get some time together, which was great. We typically just for time and money and all that kind of stuff, we record separately. But we did actually again, if people want to go online, look up some of those videos. We did have some some studio time together. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's not like we did like huge long sections or anything like that, but it's great. Brianna has done so many great things. She's got a lot of stuff under her belt, and she is just fantastic. I encourage people to look her up as well. And she's got so much stuff I can't even remember all the stuff that she's done. But she's one of those prolific, voice actresses that's just done. You can name probably 100 different things that she's done, but. And she's great, she really brought her own sort of style to Shenhua as well. She really, kind of went off of what 1 and 2 was, and then kind of brought a little bit of her own into it as well. And she really is this kind of, how to describe Shenhua, right? Like she's a very mysterious character herself, right? and the way that she chose to voice this character, in a way, you can tell that she's, you know what I mean? Like, she's not just a street vendor. You know what I mean? Like, she's not just selling fish and telling you directions where to go. The way that she chose to act Shenhua is that she is a story driving character. She is, she's a mystery. She is, she's, people could probably imagine her as a mystic or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, she is one of the characters, and she was able to breathe life into that character in such a way that I think fans will find fascinating. And she's a real professional, man. She can find a character and make you think certain things about that character by just the way that she voices it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that definitely takes a lot of talent. And when it comes to, like, voice acting, even I tried to dabble here and there, even on my channel. Just going over a few lines is almost, I mean, I'll listen back to it and I'm like, no. And then this, it's just a struggle. So to be able to just record so many lines that you've got to record, especially you as the main voice actor of the series. I mean, I can only give respect to you and your performance, especially the fact that the game itself was a groundbreaker and an innovator in so many different genres of gaming today. Like, QTEs became a norm after Shenmue, and open world wasn't really that big of a concept until Shenmue brought it out there. And you being part of that was, with your performance, is just outstanding in itself. So, much credit to you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I remember playing the game too for the first time and thinking those same thoughts that you were. You know what I mean? Like, wow, this is. I just remember thinking, like, this is where I've wanted games to be, for so long.
Yeah.
And Shenmue came out, it's just like, oh yes, so you really can go into every room. You really can open up every drawer. You really can talk to just anybody on the street. And depending on what time of day it is, depending on what kind of mood that person is in, for whatever reason, it's different. So I agree. As far as all that open world and QTE and all that stuff, that, like you said, we take that stuff for for granted now. But before Shenmue, we literally didn't have it, So as far as I understand, in fact, I think that's the first game. Am I wrong? I think it's the first game that I ever played that had QTE in it.
Actually, I think there were games, especially like games like Dragon Lair, for example. They had.
I remember you had the joystick and you kind of had to move where the light was taking you and all that kind of stuff. Right.
But the term, I believe, was coined in Shenmue.
But it's like I remember going through. It's like you go through the story and then you kind of you have a sudden switch, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think QTE really kind of came into its own. You know what I mean? Maybe I should rephrase that and say the QTE that we have today, that we still use to this day, was born in Shenmue. Because you're right. I remember games. Oh man! Talk about a quarter eater back in the game, Dragon Lair, right?
Yeah,
I remember it was. I love that game, right? Animated, and you had to move out of a certain way and hit certain things or use your sword or whatever. But it was different, right? Like, if you messed up, that was it. You got eaten by the dragon or whatever, and you had to start all over again.
Yeah.
But with QTE, like, you had other options, especially in Shenmue, right? Like, sometimes you messed up, sometimes you fell over some obstacles or something like that, but you still had the opportunity to catch up to the bad guy. But if you messed up too many times, that was it, right?
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, maybe I should rephrase that and say the QTE that we have today, I think, was born in Shenmue.
Yes, yeah, especially its use of being involved in cinematics rather than just watching them. I think, yeah, that was revolutionized in Shenmue. And modern gamers themselves today wouldn't particularly realize that, but now they're going to have a chance when they play Shenmue 3. So when a modern gamer walks in who's young, probably like your daughter's age or my daughter's age, my daughter's 13, and she's going to play it as well, of course. I'll sit her in front of the TV and have her play. How do you think that they're going to react to the game now that it's been somewhat modernized and the graphics are up to date? Do you think that they'll be able to... What do they have to do to really dive into the third game and enjoy it? Like, what concepts do they have to be ready for, in your opinion?
You know what, though? I think just because it is a modern game, that they're really just going to enjoy it for what it is. I think, you know what I mean? It's particularly people, like you said, daughter's age, right? 10, 13, stuff like that. They'll be able to just sit back and enjoy the game for what it is, right? So when they go through and play it, they're going to... I mean, if they played 1 and 2, they'll realize, again, it's very similar to the first two games in the way, as far as time is concerned and stuff like that, as far as the journey is concerned. But they won't be distracted by the quirky things that are in 1 and 2 that gamers today, I think, would find distracting. You know what I mean? Especially if you play, like, I'm playing mine on my PS4, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the sound is just, you know, by today's standards, of course, it's just like clunky and weird, and my daughter makes fun of it all the time. Like we were watching a video of Boston Dynamics, one of their walking robots, and it was a robot that like picks up boxes and delivers it to other parts of the office or whatever. But it's flat-footed, right? And it goes... And she goes, oh, it sounds like Hazuki. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Because he's like... It's almost like he's flat-footed and he's slamming his feet down on the floor every time he walks. And it's like, well, you know, yeah, the PS4 version. Well, no, I mean, it was kind of like that in Dreamcast too. And I was like, yo, stop it! You know, it's like this is a game that's 20 years old. You know what I mean? Like, it was awesome back then. So shut up. But yeah, of course, you know, it's funny. My daughter will get distracted sometimes by funny things like that. That of course we remember, right?
Right.
And so it's like, oh, my phone's getting a little warm. Let's see if I can... hold on a second. Let me get an ice pack. Okay?
Sure. Well, in the meantime, I'm going to read some of the comments that you guys have been saying. Let's see. Bad Bar, where is the trailer? Okay, does Corey have any thoughts on any future installments, commercial success, and challenges? How can the fans help that? So I was just looking at some of the fans' comments there. They're eager to ask their questions. I just picked up one from 1160. Does Corey have any thoughts on future installments, commercial success, and challenges for the future?
Challenges for the future.
And how the fans can help out, of course.
You know, to be honest with you, let's tackle that one part at a time. So give me the question, and we'll just do it one little section at a time.
Sure. So, I'll let me scroll up to it. Pull it up here. All right, it's this one. Do you have any thoughts on future installments past Shenmue 3? Anything shareable?
Yeah. Well, I think probably a lot of fans will know that Yu Suzuki doesn't want it to end here. In fact, there was an article just recently, I think IGN did an article about how, Yu Suzuki's got stuff lined up. We have music still untapped. We have story still untapped. Yu Suzuki wants it to continue going on. He basically he's got stuff lined up, ready to go. So if you guys want to see more, just let us know. And I'm sure fan reaction as far as story and stuff like that in Shenmue 3. Let everybody know. Let Deep Silver know. Let I don't know. Let Sega know. Let Yu Suzuki know. Let everybody know that they're interested in seeing more of Shenmue. And man, I mean, you guys get it done. Seriously, it's because of you guys that we have 3 going on anyway. So, so I can say that because that's basically something that Yu Suzuki himself has already said. That yeah, we want more. We can see more, and we have more lined up, ready to go. The next part of the question?
Yeah, the next part was basically how well, in your opinion, how do you think this Shenmue 3 is going to succeed from a commercial standpoint?
Yeah. You know, I have already seen some pretty positive things. I've talked to some people who know about these things as well, and they see a very positive future for it. I've talked to some people who are basically in charge of these things, talking about numbers and talking about basically how commercial viable a game will be. And I have heard some good things about Shenmue 3. As I spoke to them, I think the last time that I spoke to them was a while now. Oh, actually, I guess the last time I spoke to them was at this last E3, where Yu Suzuki was, and we saw some of the demos and all that kind of stuff. It's so far, people have good things to say about its future as far as Shenmue 3 is concerned. So that's a positive thing, and that's as of back then. So I'm sure numbers have changed, and hopefully it's changed for the positive, and maybe it's even more glorious. But we'll see.
All right, so I wanted to break off at this point because I know your phone's kind of overheating and it's a situation. I wanted to get to the Q&A portion, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up from there. Okay?
Yeah, sure. I love it.
Okay, so let's scroll into some of the comments that I see here. I see the Retro Godfather. Do you have any personal favorite parts of the games? Either 1, 2, and I guess you can't share too much about 3, but the first 2. Any favorites?
Yeah. Good question, man. Some of my favorites. You know, I don't know why this sticks out in my brain. But remember, there was an old man in the park, and he teaches you. We were talking about this earlier, actually, about martial arts philosophy and stuff like that.
Right.
And he teaches you a bit about patience and about how you need to be able to concentrate on one thing. And it's the leaves that are falling down from the tree, and you have to focus in on one of the leaves, and then when it starts to do that magical thing, you
boom.
Strike out, and you catch it between your 2 fingers, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I just love that part of the game. Like, when people ask me what my favorite part is, as far as some of the more, some of the tasks that I guess that you have to do during the game, I just love that part. And I remember at the end of it too, he's talking about strength and all those kinds of things, and then he comes over and he does kind of like this power move onto the tree, but it looks like he just touches it, right?
Yeah.
As he walks away, all the leaves start to come down from the tree because of the power that he put into that palm strike, right?
Yeah.
But just in general though, who doesn't love these cinematic sequences, right? And I think it's just a combination of how they were able to. It's almost like they filmed it like a movie, right? And when you put in the Shenmue music and the instrumental and stuff like that, you know why people get the feels when they're watching these cinematic sequences, right? So, it's just whenever Shenhua is talking about, you know, how he'll come from a land from across the sea and all that kind of stuff, and those images and those sounds and stuff like that really does strike a chord with a lot of people, and it does me too. So I just love the cinematic sequences, and a lot of them, it really just, they come at the very beginning and at the end as well, right? So
yeah, I mean, to me, like, it's not only just the cinematic sequences and the sounds, but also the music that really, like, I mean, those notes hit from the main theme, and it's just immediately brings you in. So I totally know what you're talking about.
It really is something special, and it has partly to do with instruments that we might not hear all the time. So when you hear it, you immediately recognize it. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. You could be in the subway going to work, and you hear just one or two notes, and you'll be able to know that it's Shenmue. You know what I mean? That is something that is, you know, there are sometimes when, like, a really great soundtrack to a movie, you can hear it and instantly remember what it is. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't have to be like a magical, mystical, or, you know, it doesn't have to be anything like that. It could be like, think about, like, if I were to say Terminator 2, what's the soundtrack that comes into your brain? Right? You remember the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Right? That's how a powerful soundtrack can really instantly bring you into a scene or a movie or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with Shenmue, man. Like, the music is so important, and when you start to hear those instruments and the way that it's put together, it instantly brings you into Shenmue, and that is it doesn't happen all the time, and it really is quite spectacular when it does.
So I picked up a question from Kelvin Figueroa before. He wanted to know, besides Ryo, who is your favorite character in the Shenmue series?
You know, it's funny. It's kind of like the opposites of Hazuki, right? Like, whenever Joy busts in on the scene, right? You know what I mean? And she's like his complete opposite. She's loud. She's like in your face. She's bright and colorful, and you know what I mean? Like, it really makes your mind do a flip. You kind of switch for a second. You're in this Hazuki mood where you're I'm on my quest. I have to find this. I have to go there. I have to do. Whoa! What the? You know? All of a sudden she's like, you know, it's like she's got her cut off. You know what I mean? She's hot. She's got her bright hair, and like suddenly your mind kind of does a backflip, and you're like, what? You know what I mean? Or another great contrast to Hazuki is Ren, right? Like, Ren is just, he's like, you know, just shady, and he's like boisterous, and he's like total gangster, you know what I mean? And he's a great contrast. I think I love characters like that.
Yeah.
Something that kind of brings you out for a second and kind of like sidetracks you in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, in a good way. It doesn't bring you out of the story, but what it does is that it makes you realize, oh wait, there's other stuff going on, and there are these great characters that make you see life in a different way. So I really love stuff like that. You know, I think those great contrasts, and I think I got to point to Joy and Ren and say that, yeah, it's one of them that really gives me some great memories of just story switch and contrast and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take one last question, and I got this. Let me see. It was actually a pretty simple one from Bob Blanton previously. Asked a simple question. What's your favorite Shenmue game? 1, 2. They had a... I don't know if you played... There was a mobile one released in Japan. Don't know if you had an opportunity to see that, but...
Fortunately, I didn't, and I'm saddened by that. But yeah, I did not get a chance to play that. So do I have to pick between 1 and 2?
Yeah. 1 and 2.
Wow, yeah, nobody's ever asked me that before. God, they both have great parts in it, right?
Yeah.
You know, I love going to Hong Kong. I love meeting the characters over there. We had some really great characters and some really great story over there. But you know, it's hard because in 1, you have his father dying. You have the beginning of his quest. You find out that there's like nefarious gangsters involved. You're all curious about Lan D and who he is and where he comes from and all that kind of stuff. It's hard to beat the setup. You know what I mean? When you see the first cinematic sequence and you know this guy wearing the green and the dragon and what is all that, and you know, and then you start to find out these things, and you're like, whoa, what was my father involved with and all that kind of stuff. It's really hard to beat that, but they both just have such great things involved. Again, you find out more to the story in 2. You get a great big surprise at the end of 2.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even know. Okay, everybody, leave a comment below. What's your favorite game, 1 or 2, and tell me why.
Right now, we've got a toss-up. All right, so at this point, Corey, I want to again thank you for joining all of us on Shenmue Day, the last Shenmue Day before the game releases. And pretty much, if you've got any recent events coming up that you want to share with us, or anything else you'd like to share with the group.
Yeah, I will be doing a Shenmue Geekout at here in LA. It'll be specifically in Burbank, and it will be held at Game Realms. And if you guys want to look that up, Game Realms is a retro gaming store. You guys could look up their website and find out more information about me going over there. They'll actually be doing a live stream as well. So I'll be meeting fans there, and we'll be signing autographs and all that kind of stuff. And if you guys can make it, and I really highly recommend anybody who can make it to Burbank that day, come on over, because we're just gonna skip the meetup over at Game Realms, and we're just gonna go hang out somewhere. I don't know, Bob's Big Boys or something like that. We're gonna grab some burgers and shakes and just talk about all things Shenmue and voiceovers and stuff like that. And we will have other voice actors there as well from Shenmue that we will be able to announce at that time. We'll have other voice actors that are also fantastic, who have also done lots of voiceover projects in the past, some really fantastic projects. So yeah, anybody who wants to check that out, go to GameRealms.com, check that out. And please, and this is another thing too, we might be giving out something special to people who cosplay in their favorite Shenmue characters. But yeah, I want to see I want to see people like Tom, Goro. I want to see if people have other favorite characters that if somebody can do the Goro Bouffant, that would be just fantastic. I'd love to see that. We'll be giving out, as far as I know, I talked to Adam Koralik about it. And if you guys don't know who he is, look him up, Adam Koralik. We'll be giving out some special prizes for people who dress up as their favorite Shenmue character.
That's got to be a sight. So you heard it from Corey. Definitely show up to Game Realms December 7th, you said?
Is it decent? Oh man, I'm bad. I gotta look that up. It might be. It's definitely on the website. So if people can go to Game Realms, check that out.
All right. There we go. And if there's nothing else, thank you, Corey, for joining us. Definitely subscribe to this channel. Hit up Corey Marshall on his Twitter. What's your Twitter again? One more time.
Corey Marshall VO. And I just want to warn people, though. I always warn people that is my. It says Corey Marshall VO, but that is my personal Twitter. And I talk about everything on there. It's not just Shenmue. It's not Corey Marshall Shenmue. No, it's my own personal Twitter. So, you know, if you can't take what I say, it's okay. You don't have to be my friend. You don't have to follow me. I won't be offended. But if you want to check out all the things that I'm involved with, and that could be whatever. It could be movies, it could be politics, it could be Shenmue related stuff, it could be whatever. Then you can check me out, Shenmue or Corey Marshall VO. So that is my personal Twitter.
So there you have it. Anyway, thanks guys. Thank you, Corey. And as always, you could make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus. I'm out. See you guys later.